The stock market is gradually gaining more attention along with the rise of the internet and with the influence of social media. With just one swipe and tap on any of your devices, information about stocks will be readily available, and there are a lot of ways offered through any media outlet online on how to increase your knowledge about it and how it would help you to handle your finances properly. This video is one of those, keeping in mind the basic principle of the stock market. It's not so much whether you're right or wrong, as it is how much money you make when you're right and how much money you lose when you're wrong. So stay tuned. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit up that notification bell as well. 2022 finally came, and along with it came an increase in the overall cost of every good found in the market to possibly boost the dying economy due to the pandemic and the skyrocketing prices of the stock market. As a person that's trying to make a living in today's situation, we would like to invest our money in something with a high return. But with less experience in investment, we're confused as to how to handle our finances properly. In times like these, we tend to look up wealthy people and read about how they made their way up. Have you ever heard of Warren Buffett? He is a 91-year-old billionaire, which makes him one of the 5 richest men in the world, and he's also known as the most successful investor of all time. Today, in this video, I will walk you through his publicly traded stock portfolio. Buffett runs Berkshire Hathaway, which owns a lot of familiar companies such as Dairy Queen, Duracell, and a lot more. Back in May of 2016, he invested in the world-known tech company Apple. By that time, a share only cost about $23, and he kept on buying up until 2018. So far, he never sold any of his shares, and the price has already escalated up to around 4 to 8 times since he bought it. The total value that he owns at Apple is about $125 billion, which makes up 42.78% of his total stock portfolio and also his largest holding. Buffett possesses $42 billion from the Bank of America, making this his second largest stock position, making up 14.6% of his total stock portfolio. The stock itself is traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol BAC if you're interested in buying. Through the exercise of the warrant, Buffett purchased the Bank of America with a strike price of $7.14. In the third quarter of 2018, at a price of around $30, he then increased his stake by 30%, giving him an overall cost basis for Apple stock of $14. Buffett has made a good profit now that the stock price is at $40 a share. In comparison to the current market, now that the price-to-earnings ratio is nice and low at 13.8, they do pay a bit of a dividend with a yield of 1.89%. Before we continue on, please don't forget to click that like and subscribe button and hit up the notification bell as well. The third largest holding in Buffett's portfolio is the credit card company American Express, which he manages with a value of $45.4 billion. This stock position accounts for 8.66% of his total stock portfolio, and he owns about 150,000 shares. The stock itself is a value-focused stock, which is fairly normal for Buffett to go for. The price is $173 with a rather low price-to-earnings ratio in this market of 18.1. It also pays a 1% dividend, and if we go to Guru Focus, which studies the intrinsic value, it comes in at around $214 per share, so selling it for a discount based on that. Now we're moving on to Buffett's fourth largest holding and his favorite investment, CocaCola. I remembered an interview I watched where Buffett stated that he would never sell his Coca-Cola stock, which accounts for 7.15% of his total stock portfolio, amounting to $20.1 billion. Buffett purchased the stock in 1988, which means that he owns other famous beverage trade names such as Fanta, Sprite, Smartwater, and a variety of other billion-dollar brands through the stock. The next stock shows how invested Buffett is in the food and beverage industry. He owns $11.9 billion in Kraft Heinz stock, accounting for 4.09% of his total stock portfolio, making this his fifth largest holding. Although a lot of individuals consider Kraft Heinz stock to be a value play despite its recent price drop. It has a low market cap, a high dividend of 4.4%, and a reasonable ratio of 19.5. Buffett's 6th, 8th, and 10th largest positions are all financial services companies, implying that 5 out of his 10 largest positions are banks. Coming in at number 6 is Moody's Finance Company, which is worth $8.7 million and owns 3% of his total stock portfolio. 8th is US Bank Corp, which is worth $7.5 billion, accounting for 2.5% of his portfolio, And lastly, his 10th largest investment is the Bank of New York Mellon, worth $3.7 billion at 1.3% of his total stock portfolio. All that I mentioned are Buffett's 10 largest investments, but we have not talked about his investment for this year. Continue this video to learn more and don't forget to click that like and subscribe button. This year, Buffett greatly invested in banking or the financial service sector, and you might be wondering why, which is a fair question. 1. To do business and keep the economy running, you want to own stocks that the companies need, and that's what banks are for. Also, keep in mind that when everyone else is scared and panicking, Buffett likes to buy, as he did with the banking sector. American Express, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs were all examples of his signature post-crash buffer bailout that yielded large returns. Buffett also owns stocks that are not related to banking. Verizon, the wireless networking company, is worth $8.5 billion, accounting for 2.92% of his total stock portfolio, and there's also Davida, the healthcare company, which is worth $4.2 billion, which accounts for 1.4% of his total stock portfolio. The rest of the stock that he owns is worth less than 1% each. These are minor holdings, but some stand out, including Amazon, the giant e-commerce company that has seen some pretty impressive growth in recent years. Berkshire also purchased Snowflake, which is a very different investment than what Buffett usually goes for. If we divide Buffett's portfolio by sector, the largest by far is the technology sector, which is worth 43.2%. And so you might be wondering, Warren Buffett and technology? But remember, Buffett's largest position is Apple, a technology stock, so this large percentage makes sense. The second largest sector at 31% is financial services, and we've discussed each of these financial stocks that Buffett owns and why he particularly prefers this area so much. At 12.7%, the consumer defensive sector, which includes all of his food and beverage companies such as CocaCola, Kraft Heinz, Kroger, and others, which makes up the third largest sector in his possession. What we can take away from this is that Buffett buys what he understands: food, consumers in that side of the market, banks, and the ins and outs of financial services, and Apple stock, which is essentially a consumer-oriented business. Buffett sticks to what he knows, and we should too. We should look at the sectors that we understand. For example, if you understand technology and the internet, look for stocks in that area. If you're into cars and you understand how they work and how they function, look for stocks like Ford, Tesla, and Toyota, among others. If you understand aesthetics and cosmetics, look at the companies that influence and thrive in this sector. What I've just shown you are his publicly traded stocks, which he is required by law to disclose. However, we must remember that Buffett owns a large number of privately held businesses. Buffett prefers to own simple companies such as food companies, railroads, furniture stores, and batteries, whose business models he can easily understand. Another important thing I'd like to show you is how he balanced between cash and stocks this year. He has $310.7 billion invested in both publicly traded stocks and privately owned businesses. The $144 billion is in cash and cash equivalents, the majority of which is in short-term treasury bills, meaning that 32% of his entire portfolio is cash, and the other 68% is businesses. That is a high cash percentage, especially for Buffett, who prefers to buy stocks rather than hold cash, which does not grow and is eaten away by inflation. In today's market, with things being quite expensive, Buffett is also struggling in finding valuable investments to acquire, so to avoid the risk of losing money, he's playing the game safely. In 2022, Buffett owns a lot of bank stocks and a lot of consumer stocks. He's investing very patiently and didn't go buying stocks much last year. He's letting his cash pile up, and I believe that he's holding back and is waiting for stocks to get cheaper before he jumps in and starts purchasing big again. To invest in areas that we know and like is probably the best lesson that we can learn from Buffett, especially if you're just starting out on this venture. This is a gamble, and it might not always ensure a big return, and you might easily be disappointed when you start seeing your losses, so start small and be patient. By the time you have enough money to wager, wait for the sector that you're particularly interested in to become cheap before you invest big. Again, hope you learned a lot of lessons from the video. Don't forget to give it a like and hit up that subscribe button. See you!